All right, we're back with another episode. Joey, thank you so much for being here, man. How's it going?
Good, man. I appreciate you asking me to come on and talk.
Oh man, listen, I love just talking to interesting people, and I'm always online, looking over stuff, and I happened to come upon your show, seen a couple of episodes, and I love the concept that you have, so I definitely wanted to sit down with you, talk a little bit, pick your brain and just see like, why did you start your show? So that would be my first question to you is like, how did the Angle Show actually get started?
Well, first off, I appreciate you checking out the show and liking it. But yeah, the show initially started because I have been a lifetime fan of professional wrestling, specifically WWE, obviously, because that was the first wrestling company that I was introduced to. But it mainly came from loving it so much, having such a passion for it, where there was nowhere to put that passion.
Mm-hmm.
I went to school for writing and journalism, so that was a big thing for me. Growing up, I would write like my own. I would watch Monday Night Raw, and Friday and SmackDown. At the time, I think it was Thursdays on SmackDown.
Yeah.
And I would write what I saw and almost write articles about it. And this is me like 7 or 8 years old, not knowing what I want to do with my life, not knowing anything like that. So later in life, I'm in my late 20s now, and I figured out like, wow, this is something I've loved and I can create a career from it. So I like to talk, I like to write. Let me see how I can correlate that to a podcast. And it's kind of how it started.
Oh man. So you started doing this, and for so many people who want to try to, get into the business that you're in right now, as far as like starting a podcast like this, because you interview a ton of different stars from like, AEW, NXT, WWE, the indies. Like, what is like some of the challenges that you go through as you try to prepare for your show?
The first thing I think, and I think it's what a lot of people also that I speak to that are in the same, that such as yourself, like we do wrestling podcasts with wrestlers. It's the confidence factor. I mean, a lot of people, and it's a big reason why people don't start podcasts to begin with. They're not confident that in the way that they sound. They're not confident that people will listen. They don't think they're going to do a good job. It's all that self-negative talk that persuades you to not do it. So I think that's the first and one of the biggest obstacles that comes along with doing a podcast, not even just wrestling podcasts, but in general, doing a podcast. Once you get over that, it's more of accepting the fact that people are going to say no. I mean, a lot of people are going to say no, especially when you're starting, because these wrestlers, if they are wrestlers that you're looking to interview, they look at your stuff before they say yes.
That's true.
And I don't think people realize that. It's their reputation that they're putting on the line when they come on your show. So if they see you not really in their way taking it seriously, you're not consistent, your quality is just not anything that would set itself apart, they are probably going to say no or not even respond. But you need to just stay focused on that one yes, because that one yes is what's going to get you to the next level, and it's going to continue. And then you have a list of people. Now you have almost a resume where, hey, I interviewed this person, this person, this person. Now you seem legitimate to them. So I think the biggest thing is, one, the confidence factor, and two, just staying consistent with asking, where that one yes is going to be better than those 40, 50 no's.
Yeah, that's true. I remember I was talking to Chris Van Vliet a couple of weeks ago when I had him on the show, and he was telling me the same thing. When, as far as I asked him, I was like, when he got started, like, what were some of the challenges that he went through? And, he said, similar things too, is just being consistent and just, building a good reputation that's going to help you open up some of those doors, and it's true. Somebody, a lot of these talents, they do, look at your stuff, especially like if you send off an email and you're like requesting an interview. One of the things Chris had mentioned and gave a good tip was like, if you want to really like show you like your capability, is like send them a link of a show. So at least they know, what they're getting themselves into, or list the people that you have had on your show before. So like, you know, Chris could say like, hey, oh, you know, a friend of mine's could reach out and say, hey, I did a show with, you know, Kenny reached out, you know, I see that you've done it before. How was your experience? And they could just take it from there, which, you know, it has definitely helped out for myself, as far as like, you know, getting other guests on, as far as like I said, like, hey, your friend did it, you know, you can, you know, talk to them about it, see what they think. So, I mean, it's good to know that like other people like yourself, you know, go through the same thing and have like the same similar experience.
Yeah, it's like when you go to apply for a job, you need to list references. In this sense, it's kind of the same thing where you're not asking for references, but it's always good to have them. And you know, shout out to Chris Van Vliet, because he actually put out a recent episode, I think last week, the week before, about starting a podcast. I don't know if you heard it.
Yeah, I did.
Or watch it, but it was fantastic. I mean, he hit the nail right on the head. Everything you would need to know about starting a podcast. Even I learned some things, like just the way you approach guests, the way you interact with them, the way you ask them. It's not like, hey, be on my show. You know, it's more professional. It's more show them that you can bring them value. Obviously, when I started, I didn't have any views on YouTube. I didn't have anything. And I've even had wrestlers tell me, like, listen, I know I have a bigger following than you. What do I get out of being on your show? And you have to have a damn good answer.
Yeah, you have to have that confidence. And I remember when I started off, the same thing like you, like I didn't have 0 views. I had just started an Instagram page, and you know, had a couple of people follow me, and I reached out to my first talent, which was Thunder Rosa, and she was still in NWA at the time. I sat down with her and I just gave her my story. I said, hey, this is my plan. This is what I want to do. I'm brand new. You'll be my first guest. Can you help me? And I literally came out to her and I just said, like, can you help me? Like, whatever it is that you need from me, whatever it is you need from me, I will do, as long as like if you can help me out with this. And it was funny because when she reached out and she came back, she was like, listen, buy me a cup of coffee. And I was like, buy you a cup of coffee? And I'm thinking like, first of all, I'm thinking she's probably giving me some type of like wrestling term or whatever. And I'm like, okay. And I was just like, yeah, sure. How much? And she was just like, well, I like Starbucks. So I gave her like money for Starbucks. She told me, when do you need me? She did the episode and it took off from there. So I'm always appreciative to her.
You know what's crazy too? When I first started doing my show, and a lot of people don't know this, I don't even think I've ever said it anywhere either. When I first started doing my show, I didn't even think about doing interviews with wrestlers. It was more of, let me speak my opinion on what I saw, and that would be it. Kind of like what Dave LaGreca does with Busted Open, talk about what he saw and, you know, give an opinion. And then someone reached out to me from a wrestling promotion here in New York, and they asked me like, hey, have you ever done interviews before? Would you love to come to our show and interview our talent? And I was like, wow, I did not even think about, for me at that time, it wasn't a reachable, it wasn't an attainable thing to be able to interact with them. I thought I was just going to talk. And I went out there, and my first interview was with Melina. She was their women's champion, and I didn't know what I was doing. And it's on my channel for people who want to go watch it. I did not know what I was doing. The camera work was horrible. It was loud. It was just, and it started from there.
I mean, we all have to start somewhere, and I think like the more video, like if people go back and watch like your videos, my videos, and you see the growth in our videos, and you can see that we take this seriously, and this is something that we want to continue doing, you know. So we talked about your show, but I want to know more about your love of wrestling. Where did that come from? Like, who got you into wrestling, that you got the bug and has been with you ever since?
So I come from an Italian family in New Jersey. My grandfather, or my mom's aunt or something like that, used to have, believe it or not, wrestlers at their house. My mom grew up seeing Captain Lou Albano in her living room. Let's see. My mom is actually friends with someone. She used to babysit someone who's actually in NXT right now.
Oh, wow.
And is related to the NOI family. Roman
Nice.
Reigns, the Usos, Tamina. So they had a personal connection there. My grandfather was the one who got me into it. He would watch it, and he was a war veteran. There was not much that he would smile about. There's not much that he liked in life. And when he would turn on wrestling and either watch WCW or WWF at the time, that was the one thing that made him smile. It was one thing that like took him out of everything that he had in his life.
Right.
Sip his whiskey and just enjoy the show. And I remember sitting 3 years old, sitting next to him, watching it, seeing his love for it, growing up with it, and eventually I got the bug.
and you've been hooked ever since.
I've been hooked ever since. And it's crazy because wrestling has been a part of my daily life my entire life. And now that I look back, I didn't even know it. Didn't even know it. Life lessons that you would never even think of a 12-year-old, 10-year-old, John Cena, hustle, loyalty, respect. Being so passionate and loving it, it teaches you about hustle, loyalty, and respect. So all through my life, wrestling has been a part.
So what do you think of the current state of wrestling now?
It's a tug and pull because I've been a fan of WWE my entire life. It's kind of hard to not to say it's not good. I don't know what's happening internally there, so it's very hard to say, well, Vince McMahon sucks and this. It's a business. He runs it as a business. They say now it's an entertainment company. It's not a wrestling company. And I think the biggest thing with fans is that we are not used to having other options. So
yeah, that's true.
So it's uncomfortable, which leads to a negative reaction, which everybody doesn't like WWE now because they see Impact and AEW and Ring of Honor and NWA and MLW, can go on forever naming companies, doing wrestling shows, pure wrestling shows where wrestling is their number one aspect, where WWE is an entertainment company where you're going to get wrestling, but you're going to get it in a story form. You're going to get it as a drama where there's highs and lows and
it's a soap opera at this point. Yeah.
So their number one aspect is entertainment, where AEW is more pro wrestling. So there's a difference there. So when you pull yourself back and you look at that, it's easier than saying WWE sucks because I don't like this. I don't like the Lily character. I don't like this. Well, if you pull yourself back and look at it as from a business standpoint, they're not failing.
No, they're actually making pretty good money.
They're just turning away the pure wrestling fans. And that's why AEW is gaining, and that's why all these other companies are gaining. So it's not that they're doing anything bad. It's just that we're not used to what they are doing.
Yeah, and that's true because you see it so much now online where now people are just taking sides. Everybody's just like, oh, well, I only want to watch AEW or I'm only going to watch WWE. And it's almost like you got to pick and choose. Like your friend could like AEW and hate WWE. And then you're sitting here watching NXT. And then it doesn't go back to that point of where okay, but I want to go check out a house show. WWE is coming into town. Are you going to come? And people are just like, no. And I give you a prime example. So September, me and you are in New York, right? September is coming around and you have you have SmackDown coming to Madison Square Garden, and then you have AEW the following week coming to Queens.
Yeah, super show.
Yeah. And then people are just like, I'm only going to one, I'm not going to the other. So it's like, okay, I have friends that only want to go to SmackDown. They don't want to go to AEW. Yeah. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to go by myself. I'm a fan of all wrestling.
I'll go with
you.
Yeah. No, and I use the analogy, and I actually used it in the interview I did before I got on your show. I've never met someone who strictly shops at Target opposed to Walmart. I shop at both. I like things from Walmart, and I like things from Target. There's no competition. It's just options. And that's the big thing too. Everybody says there's so many options now. Well, guess what? It doesn't mean you have to like one. You can like all of them because there's options. WWE is more of an entertainment company. NWA is more of a retro pro wrestling style. AEW is more of a pure wrestling style. Impact, they have their own thing going. Ring of Honor. I mean, there's options, and you don't have to like one. You don't have to like all of them, but as long as you respect others' opinions. That's, I think, is the biggest thing. Like, I'm watching Monday Night Raw, and I'm like, oh, I don't like this, and people are coming for blood. Like,
oh yeah,
AEW. I'm like,
those fights get serious at times. Like, you literally sitting there. Like, sometimes I have to, like, if I post something on Instagram for the show, and I have like one criticism about maybe like AEW, I get like a ton of people that will either say, I'm not following you anymore for X, Y, and Z, and or
you don't need those
or you're crazy because of whatever. And I'm just like, okay, like I've learned to pull back and not feed into it. And I'll just say, listen, that's your opinion. I have mine. If you decide you want, that's fine. You can. And I tell them, like, you could come on the show and we can debate this in person, in front of everybody if you want. No. I'm just gonna leave okay, no problem. Thank you very much. You have a good day.
It's like when I talk about on Twitter, I say, I'm very high on Roman Reigns. Like, this guy is the guy in WWE, and there's really nothing else that anybody can say that can, persuade me in that sense. And when I say something like, oh, he is the best world champion in professional wrestling, that's not a knock to Nick Aldis. That's not a knock to Kenny Omega. That's me watching SmackDown, observing and liking it. Someone comes to me and says, well, Kenny Omega's better. Like, was I saying anything about Kenny Omega? Was I talking?
Exactly.
I'm watching SmackDown. This is what I think. I didn't say Roman Reigns is better than anyone in AEW or whatever. It's always a tisk for a task, and it's like, just enjoy it. Walmart has some better prices than Target. Target has some better products than Walmart. You like what you like, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, now that the fans are coming back to the arenas, we're starting to get more shows. Maybe we can get everyone together finally to, just sit down and watch the product for what it is. Like, let's just enjoy the entertainment that we're getting, right now.
Yeah, I think I think the fans, really, it's the fans that have forgotten that we are fans. And we are not the bookers. We're not the creative. And I think that's an issue with having so many wrestling podcasts and wrestling shows today. Everyone thinks that they're in the business, and it's great to have an opinion. I respect everybody's opinion, as long as it's not like a racist comment or something.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not tolerable. But I respect most opinions, and it's just a matter of observing what you watch. You can give an opinion, but you don't need to say that this company is the worst company ever, and you persuade people to hate them and not watch. Come on, man. Everyone's got their own thing.
It's true. So, Joey, where can people find you on social if they haven't checked out your show yet? Where can they check it out, and when does your show drop?
Yeah, so you can check out the name of the show is The Angle Podcast. You can check out on all social media platforms. It's The Angle Radio on social media. I didn't get a chance to change that handle. There's someone who has The Angle Podcast right now, and I'm not going to name names, but he's a WWE Hall of Famer with the last name Angle. So I'm really probably not going to get that name or that handle. But it's The Angle Radio on all social media platforms. You can check out theangleradio.com, which has all the links to everything. It's kind of my home base. Everything is there. You can see interviews with people like Eric Bischoff, Diamond Dallas Page, recently released talent like Tucker Knight, or let's see, another one can be Rob Van Dam, someone I had on the show. And I try to drop an episode either Tuesdays or Thursdays. I'm not consistent with the specific day, but this Thursday I'll be dropping an interview with former WWE referee Jimmy Corderas.
Yes.
We talk about him being in the ring when Owen Hart fatally had his accident, refereeing Edge versus Undertaker at WrestleMania. A lot of different cool stories, so that will be a cool one to check out. So yeah, The Angle Radio on all social platforms.
Joey, thank you for taking the time out with me and to chat about wrestling and to getting everybody to know a little bit more about your show. We definitely will be tuning in, and I'll be talking to you.
Brother, I appreciate you reaching out to have me on, and this is the first time I ever got to talk about like myself with wrestling. So it was really, really cool, and I appreciate you having me on. And everybody who's watching or listening right now, don't forget to like and subscribe and comment, whatever you like about the show.
Definitely.